Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our webinar, Radical Community During COVID. Um, my name is Rosie, and if you're interested in a year of service, you have probably spoken to me a little bit. If you haven't, I'd be happy to get in touch with you after this webinar. So with this webinar today, we really want to discuss what Maggie's Place has looked like as a community during this past year in the midst of COVID, and how throughout the difficulties and throughout the hardships and the struggles that everyone has experienced with the pandemic, radical community really has emerged. And so we're just really excited to speak to you about that, to answer your questions. If the Q&A is not enabled on your view of the webinar, you can feel free to email me questions at AmeriCorps@maggiesplace.org, and we will answer them for you. But yes, without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Stephanie, who is our Director of AmeriCorps for Maggie's Place. And from here, she'll take it with the webinar.
Thanks, Rosie. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to get a chance to talk with you today, along with Rosie and Amy, just to share some more information about Maggie's Place and our core values community during this very unique season. And so before we continue much further, Rosie has introduced herself. I'm the Director of AmeriCorps at Maggie's Place. So I oversee basically everything AmeriCorps related, which includes recruitment, includes supervision and training for our AmeriCorps members and support during their year of service, as well as things like grant reporting and things like that. And so it's definitely a privilege to get to be with you. And I'd like to introduce Amy Manfield. Amy is a second year AmeriCorps with us this year, a second year house manager, and she's one of our 2 team leaders for this year. So Amy, will you tell us a quick snippet about yourself?
Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest, born and raised, went to school in the Midwest, made my way out to Phoenix to work at Maggie's Place. Thought that I would just be here for a year before I went back to school. And then I loved it so much, I told them they couldn't get rid of me even if they tried. And so I signed on for a second year and asked to be considered for the team lead position to kind of broaden my support of the Maggie's Place community. And here I am, still living in the home for a second year and hanging out with the mamas and babies.
Great. And we're so glad to have you. So everybody, you will get a little bit of perspective from each of these core members and Rosie now in our AmeriCorps liaison role in terms of what last year was like during that first service year when the pandemic hit. And then what it has looked like on an ongoing basis and how we've adapted as a community to safely meeting the challenges that the pandemic has brought while maintaining our core values of love and community and hospitality and excellence, and really continuing to live those out in our homes. So this webinar is being recorded with the goal that it will be available for anyone who wasn't able to join us this morning. And then also we're planning on about 30 minutes of sharing with you, and we will have question and answer opportunities throughout that, with probably 10 to 15 minutes on the end for Q&As that arise. So we will be using the question and answer box, as Rosie mentioned earlier. So you can submit your questions. They'll go directly just to Rosie, Amy, and I. And then there will be a few points throughout the webinar where we will answer questions. So basically, a snapshot of what we're going to cover today real quickly. What serving as an AmeriCorps member at Maggie's Place has been like during the COVID pandemic. What COVID protocol for the homes looks like, and kind of what to expect. Although, you know, at the same time, we're making sure to stay up to date on guidelines as they come out, and so things do adapt. And then why choose service during a pandemic? And so especially Amy and Rosie, what advice would you give to prospective and incoming core members as they're considering or maybe have already committed to a year of service or a summer of service during a pandemic. So I'd like to take a second and invite everyone listening to share any questions that you have up front in the Q&A box. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at those just to make sure that we know what you want us to cover today. And then we will move from there into hearing some stories. Okay. Well, continue sharing in the Q&A box as we go along if you have questions for any one of us specifically or for us as a group. So first of all, I would like to have Rosie share a little bit about your experience, Rosie, during serving in the homes during COVID. So would you talk with us about what it was like for you when the COVID pandemic first hit during your service year back last March? What were the first 3 months like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I served from August 2019 to August of 2020. So prior to COVID, we were super busy with a lot of tasks that I'll talk about in a little bit. But we all experienced such a drastic shift in our service year during those first 3 months. I remember the week that the lockdown happened in our nation. I had actually been planning on going on a trip to go see some of my loved ones in Tennessee. And I think like 1 or 2 days before my flight, like that's when everything locked down, and the reality of the situation that we were all about to enter as a country, and on a smaller scale as our Maggie's Place homes, like it really began to set in. And so from the very beginning, each of us made a choice to stay in the midst of that and to stay with our communities, because by that point, our communities really had become our family. And I feel like in those first 3 months, and really throughout all of COVID, there was this balancing act of emotionally balancing our own fears while also being present to the needs of the community, and really ensuring an atmosphere of safety as best as we could. So while we were balancing like our own fears and our own emotions, being separated from our family and having trips canceled, we did the best that we could to really maintain a positive atmosphere in the community and to really soak in those moments. And I think for some of us, there was a little bit of a fear at first. What is it going to be like for all of us to be around each other all at once, when beforehand it seemed like we were busy, like running errands, like sometimes the moms were busy going to appointments or doing different things. And then all of a sudden we were all in one place at one time, all of the time. And so it was really interesting to get to lean into community in that way. But I think one of the biggest lessons I learned in those first 3 months was just how beautiful the gift of presence was in our community, being able to stay tuned to the needs of the moms and the needs of each other, and how during that time, it really was a time for us to lean on each other and to grow. So instead of just talking, I would like to also share some pictures that I'll talk you through. Just some ways that we adapted in the homes, some things that we did a little bit extra to try to balance with the needs of the community. So.
All right, here they come. This is our first webinar, everybody. So bear with the technical imperfections. Are we up? All right, Rosie.
Great. Yes. So a little bit of my experience. I was a programs coordinator in my home during the service year. So a lot of my job was around, it surrounded planning events for our house and finding things to do for community night. Normally we had speakers come into the house, but at the onset of COVID, we were like throughout the entire experience, our first priority has been safety within our homes. And so we had to adapt our needs a little bit or a lot as we went along. So this first picture, Stephanie, can you go to the next one? So this first picture was from one of our community nights. I think right before COVID, we were in the middle of a financial planning series where some generous members of the community, some employees at a bank, were working through a series on budgeting and saving money with our moms. And they would come to the house and work through this curriculum with everyone on community night. So whenever COVID happened, all of my programs were canceled. So this first one, at the beginning of COVID, we went on walks on community nights. And to make it a little bit more interactive and to kind of be really proactive about what we were doing on community night as a whole, moms and Corps, we took chalk with us and we wrote positive messages on the sidewalk. And these are just a few of them. There are several other chalk messages that we wrote. And as we were walking, we saw people coming out of their homes and seeing these messages on the sidewalk, thanking us for spreading some positivity in the midst of the beginning of the pandemic. And it was really special to be a part of that as a team and with our moms so that we could all try to contribute in some way to a world that was full of fear and full of anxiety about what would happen next. So I think, Stephanie, do you want to go back to this next one? Okay, so this was one of my personal favorite activities during my time at Maggie's place. Every month we have house outings or house innings, and I was in charge of planning that. So when everything was moved to house innings, we had to get a little bit more creative. And there was a National Park Week. I think it was like a whole week just dedicated to national parks. And so as a home, as a core team, we decided that we were going to make our backyard a national park so that we could celebrate safely. So this was our backyard. If you look in the middle of that picture on the ground, I believe those might have been some decorations from last Valentine's Day that we made into a fire. And we all worked together to make our backyard a camp yard or a campsite. And after the sun went down, we roasted marshmallows on our barbecue pit that you can't really see in this picture. And then we sat around the campfire and sang campfire songs. And we weren't really sure who would want to participate in this, who in the house would be actively engaged in some of our shenanigans that we like to put on. But there was so much laughter and so much love in that night, and it's definitely one of my favorite memories. So as we go on, Stephanie, can you go to the next picture? Okay, so then as the months went on, our summer corps were coming, and one of our summer corps page quarantined at our day off house before coming into the homes out of abundance of precaution for the safety of our community. And this was the welcome sign that I made her as programs coordinator. When anyone moves into a home, they get welcome signs to make them feel welcome. So I was quite proud of this one. I love puns, and I love trying to find ways to lighten the situation. So this was Paige's welcome sign for her Palma quarantine, as I like to call it. So commence eye rolling everywhere for those of you who aren't a fan of puns. But just another one of the ways that we really tried to bring joy and tried to bring light during this time is finding humor in some of the very smallest things. Yeah, so humor, this picture is fun. So as we continued into quarantine, when things didn't get better after that first month, after those first 2 months, after those first 3 months, and numbers continued to rise and anxieties continued to grow. We began wearing masks in the house, again, for the safety of all. And I remember experiencing this shift in the atmosphere of just seeing your community members wearing masks and recognizing that everything that was going on around you outside of your home was now a reminder on the inside of your home. Seeing people in masks was a reminder of everything that was going on outside. We could no longer really hide from it mentally in our own home by pretending it wasn't happening, because we could see it. And the first couple of days that we wore masks were really hard. And I think there was less talking, there was less laughter. And I remember sitting down in the office and thinking to myself, what about these masks are scaring me? What about these masks are taking away from my relationship with others? And I remember thinking, I can't see anyone smile. I can't see anyone's face. So what can I do about this while keeping the safety of our community at the utmost importance? And then there you have this picture. And this, I decided that all of us needed to show a smile or some type of facial expression. So I found all of the pictures from our house throughout the year, pictures of moms, pictures of Cora, pictures of babies, and I printed those off and cut the bottom halves of the faces off. And so we all took turns swapping faces. I carried around 2 faces at a time, one with a big smile and then one that you can see on my face right there. That was more my concern expression. So just depending on what conversations were happening in community space and what types of jokes would be made, I would switch masks just so everyone knew where I was non-verbally. And after that, we had laughter again, and we had a little bit of joy again. It did not make everything perfect. It didn't take away all of the anxieties, but we were there for each other. And we had a way to kind of break through that initial tension to really continue working together through such a difficult time. And then I just included some pictures of life continuing. The pandemic was there, but we were also still there, and there were still babies in the house that needed to be held. There were still moms in the house that needed to be loved and supported. And so, like everyone in the country, we learned how to adapt. We learned how to continue what was our normal and learned how to adapt it into a new normal. And so, yeah, so I think those are all the pictures that I shared, but I think I won't take too much longer so Amy can also have a time to talk. But just to wrap it up, before COVID, we were running lots of errands. I was planning lots of events for moms to attend at our main location, Fiat. And then once COVID happened, we were at home a lot more. We had to be creative about the way we were introducing programming to the moms to make sure that we were still providing the supports needed. So my job, like a large chunk of my position, changed from being coordinating rides to our main location and making a driving schedule to take moms to classes, to emailing Zoom links and making sure that everyone had the technology that they needed to log on to virtual classes. And so we all just continued to adapt that way. We leaned into community more. We had more time together at that time. And it was difficult at times, but it was also very beautiful. And I think when I really think about my time in the homes during COVID, I think about some of the difficulties that were going on during that time, like in the midst of making a national park in the backyard or creating goofy things to put on our masks. There was also the reality that our moms were still having their babies in the midst of the pandemic. And some of us weren't able to be there for that. I was supposed to be at a birth with a mom, but I was not allowed to be in the delivery room because I was not a direct relative. And so there was this fear of, are these women that we love going to be alone because of this? And what can we do to support them? We were more separated from our outside supports. And so even though we were in the presence of community, like we still had to work through that isolation that we experienced just from adjusting to the new normal that was the world at the time, and still the world sometimes. But there are so many things that I am grateful for from that time. The first, toilet paper. When you're a live-in staff at a shelter, you have a stockpile of toilet paper and paper towels. And I remember like both with humor, but also with extreme gratitude, just being so thankful that was one stress that I didn't have to worry about during that time. With everything else going on, I didn't have to worry about those type of basic supplies. But more importantly, I was so thankful for community around me. I witnessed friends and students who struggled with feelings of isolation from having to be quarantining alone. And while everyone experienced to some degree, I always had my Maggie's Place family during that time. In the fear, we had joy and we had community, and it was a gift. And as you can see through some of my pictures, I think laughter is something I was so grateful for then and now. We learned the importance of adjusting expectations. And while one moment could hold a feeling of anxiety, isolation, and fear, the next could hold the beauty of laughter and presence. I have so many more things that I could talk about, but I'm going to pass this on so that Amy can also share her experiences.
Thank you so much, Rosie. I'm going to jump in real quick before Amy shares because we have a question in our chat box. Have you seen an increased need for the services Maggie's Place provides since the start of the pandemic, or is it about the same? And I would actually need to do a little more research to provide a very technical, exact answer for you, but the need absolutely continues. And moms still come to us pregnant and needing a safe place to go. A challenge that the pandemic has brought that we've chosen to take on is typically our homes would house 6 to 7 moms at a time with their babies. And some of those would be in double rooms. And so for the last several months, quite a few months of the pandemic, we have chosen, for the safety of everyone in the home, to keep moms in their own bedrooms. And so the homes are currently at 5 moms each. And we're hoping that with the vaccine and COVID rates starting to go down, that we will be able to open back up to our full capacity of 6 to 7 moms. But we haven't been able to do that quite yet in a way that we feel comfortable with the safety of. So Amy actually is going to speak a little bit about the ongoing needs that our moms face and the incredible privilege that we've gotten to participate in remaining open to our moms and providing this absolutely essential wraparound care and services that help our moms work toward their goals as they're with us. So Amy, I am going to tag team to you. If you would share a little bit with us about why did you stay and for a second year, and what has serving during COVID, especially during the second year, looked like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, why did I stay? I think Rosie touched on like the fear and the anxiety that comes with COVID. Well, I mean, I'm considered a high risk individual. My family members have asked me on more than one occasion, like, are you going to come home? Like, what are you doing? Is it really safe for you to be there? You know, when is enough, basically. And we've had a lot of those conversations centered around that fear of COVID and fear of the unknown. But for me, I think the decision to stay has always been centered around, this is my family away from my immediate family. This is this is where I've called home for the last year and a half. And before COVID hit, I was prepared to stay for another year. And so then when COVID hit, it didn't even really cross my mind as far as like, do I want to back out now? Because I think the need, like Stephanie was just talking about, the need is still present. Maggie's Place, in many ways, needed to stay open for the moms who needed a place to go. And even the moms within our homes, navigating COVID has been difficult enough for all of us. But when you're either a single parent or a parent facing other barriers to kind of independence and stability, COVID has been extremely challenging. Daycares are also being really, really cautious. And so kind of the first sign of sniffles or a baby illness, they ask you to keep your child home. But that often means that the mom has to stay home from work. And so kind of what are their needs and their rights as far as being able to maintain their employment, but also, continue caring for their baby. And I can't imagine navigating that alone. And so I think that has been one of the beauties of Maggie's Place, is we're not only serving the need that already existed, giving hospitality and homes to pregnant women who needed them, but also helping them navigate the challenges that come along with being a mom during a pandemic. Talking to our moms with older kids about how to keep them entertained during Zoom school and quarantine and stay-at-home orders and things like that. We've been able to be that support system for them, and that's been really really important to me. So long story short, the reason I stayed was because the need still existed, and this is where I called home. These were my people. I didn't feel like I needed to abandon them in the time of most need. Serving during COVID has definitely been a challenge. I'm not gonna kind of sugarcoat it. It's hard, but it's hard for everyone. Nobody knows what they're doing. I mean, from a day-to-day basis, nobody knows what tomorrow is going to look like. And so making decisions is a team effort, and we have to kind of look at all sides and figure out what that looks like for core in the home, the moms in the home, our alumni moms, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say serving during COVID has been more challenging in the sense that you have to keep an incredibly open mind, and you have to recognize that there are a lot of people working on the same team as you, and that we're all here to serve our moms and keep each other safe. And sometimes the unknown is terrifying. And so that, that can be really challenging, and you have to be committed to leaning into your support systems. But I would say that serving during COVID has also brought a lot of beauty. Like Rosie said, there are still moms who need our support, and there are still babies being born. I remember the beginning of the shutdown really, really well, because I dropped a mom off at the hospital, and then 3 days later, everything had shut down, and we were like, what does this mean for our mom who is at the hospital having a baby right now? And we're getting ready to celebrate his 1-year birthday in about a month. And that's crazy to me that the first time I met this baby was kind of when the world around us was shutting down. But there he was, and he was so joyful and just so precious. And we still got to witness all of his milestones throughout the year. Same with all of our babies, right? Like the the world is kind of scary and unknown around us, but these babies are still in our homes and they're crawling for the first time and they're getting their first teeth, and laughing and, doing all the things that babies do. And we still get to witness that, even in the midst of unknown and chaos, kind of. So definitely some beauty among serving during a really challenging time. Yeah, and I think being present during so much change, and kind of being able to be the constant during that change has been, I would say, a privilege. I think one of the most challenging things that I have experienced between my first year and my second year has been welcoming a whole new core team. So we're trying to kind of teach them about Maggie's Place and Maggie's Place community and the greater Maggie's Place community, while those things look vastly different. So, my first year, it was not unusual to be at our Family Success Center every day. Either we were bringing a mom for a class, or we were coming for a meeting, or we were just stopping by to pick up supplies. We were kind of in and out, and our Family Success Center was bustling with people all day long. It was not unusual to get an invitation to sit down and eat lunch with the staff that worked there. And it was just kind of this huge, larger Maggie's Place community that was very familiar and very well known, and trying to teach that and trying to explain what that was, while we're having to take a little bit more precaution with our Family Success Center so that we can stay open for our alumni moms, but also protect the homes, has been really difficult. And so we've had this whole year of kind of Maggie's Place service that has looked vastly different, while like pursuing this mission, but also in such a different way. And so I think, I would say that has been one of the biggest challenges. But I think if I had to give advice to core who are applying, and I am hoping that some of the participants are who I'm speaking to, are potential core, is that, a year of service always comes with sacrifices and challenges and scary things. And maybe your parents, even before COVID, were like, a year of service, what does that mean? Are you sure? So it has always been that way. And COVID has just added a few more challenges to that, added a few more scary things. But the foundation of hopefully why you want to come serve at Maggie's Place, the foundation of loving our moms and our babies, the foundation of living in community, throughout all of its challenge, the foundation of providing hospitality to those who are in need, and the foundation of, doing all of that excellently, hopefully is still present in your desire to serve during COVID as well. So I hope that helps a little bit. I hope that explains a little bit of what we're doing, or I guess why I chose to stay, what my life has been like for the past year, ups and downs, lots of questions, but really a beautiful experience. Yeah. I don't know.
Amy, will you walk us through your photos?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so Rosie touched on a lot of these really great, hopefully we can get that up again. A lot of these really great moments of kind of making life at Maggie's Place still fun during COVID. And so this was the first kind of what we like to call e-house shenanigans. So I am in my second year serving at the Elizabeth House. This is my first core team, who actually all decided to stay for a second year. So I don't know what's in the water over here at the Elizabeth House, but we all decided to stay for a second year. And so each holiday, the houses take turns hosting. And so traditionally we would all go over to another house for either Easter or Christmas or Thanksgiving. And the Elizabeth House is usually in charge of hosting Easter. But since we were about a month and a half in, I don't know, to kind of shelter in place and quarantine, we did not host Easter, and we all just celebrated Easter at our individual houses. But being kind of the I don't know, camp counselors, I guess. We were all camp counselors at one point. Being the camp counselors that we are, we all decided that that was not going to do. We needed to kind of bring Easter joy and share this holiday cheer with the other houses in one way or another. So we decided to egg the houses, and not egg, but we kind of made up these little Easter baskets full of Easter eggs and dressed up like absolute, I don't know, goons. I was a Easter chick, I think, in case that's not clear. My coworker Carrie is a bunny, and then Abby was the risen Jesus. So in case that wasn't clear, that's what we were. And we took all these Easter eggs to each of the houses, rang the doorbell, and played Peter Cottontail as the core, unsuspecting core and moms kind of came out to this chaos, for lack of a better term. So that kind of sparked a tradition. We've now done that. The other houses have kind of caught on. We've done that now for Halloween and for 4th of July, and just Valentine's Day. The Hannah House Corps showed up at our house and threw bow and arrows made out of sticks at us because they were Cupid. And so we've kind of started this tradition of like not ding dong ditching, because we don't ditch, we ding dong and then I don't know, spread holiday cheer during the times of quarantine when all the houses can't be together to celebrate. So that was our first kind of quarantine shenanigans, as Rosie appropriately called them. And then the next pictures I have are just kind of, again, this is my core team. I think this was almost I would say 6 to 9 months into the pandemic. We had started wearing masks in the house. We were kind of just looking for ways to have fun. And I think we had been out in donations all day sorting. And so we took this picture to, I don't know, I think commemorate all of our teamwork and slowly losing our minds, but still hanging in there. I remember this one. This one was with our summer corps. It was the first COVID test that we had to go get. We had an exposure, and so out of precaution, all of the staff in all of the homes got tested. And it was quite the bonding experience. We all went to a testing location. They came out to our cars, of course, stuck the swab up our nose, as most of you probably know at this point. And then we went for a morale booster ice cream, because you can't have a COVID test without ice cream after. And the next two pictures are just to kind of show that life in the house is still continuing. So these are two of my current teammates, Bar and Rachel. We had a game night Monday night for community night, and we played a riveting round of Uno. One of the moms swore that we would never beat her. We beat her. We may have had to gang up on her to do so, but we did beat her at Uno. And then the last one, of course, everyone loves a good baby picture. So that is my teammate Rachel reading to one of our little babies. Rachel's favorite book is Yertle the Turtle, so it has made its rounds around our babies in our house. So yeah, those, just a little bit of fun. I would say there are lots more of kind of the shenanigans that we've gotten into. But I think that goes to show that there's room to be creative even during COVID. And these pictures are not unlike the ones that we would see during non-COVID times, you know, reading to babies in the house, having a game night. Life is continuing.
Thank you, Amy.
Sure.
So could you share just a few minutes, because we're getting close to our time, but could you share a few minutes about what our COVID protocol in the homes currently looks like? What are we doing for prevention in the homes, and what does quarantine look like when we've needed it?
Yeah, tag team in case I forget something, because a lot of this stuff has just become so commonplace to me that sometimes I forget that it's considered COVID prevention, you know. So one of the biggest things, as you've seen, is that we were wearing masks in the home. This was kind of a decision that we made out of a trauma-informed care approach of allowing our moms to have access to their outside lives and support systems while also keeping the home safe. So of course, we have a lot of essential workers in our homes, and we can't ask moms not to work. So a lot of our moms are still working. A lot of our moms have support systems and community resources outside of our home that they still need to keep in contact with, whether it's mental health or DCS services. They're in contact with a lot of people that are necessary for their growth and their stability and their independence. So one of the biggest things that we introduced was mask wearing. And that I think we've been doing since June. And truly, I wake up in the morning, I put it on my face and I forget that it's there. And so that, as well as, like, of course, hand washing and disinfecting our highly touched surfaces quite often. We have daily chores anyway, so it was kind of easy just to add certain chores to the chore chart a couple extra times, or for one of the staff to walk around with the Lysol can, and it kind of became a fun game where you just spray all the light switches and doorknobs. Increased sanitization, of course, as well. All the homes are stocked with PPE in case they're needed. So kind of our higher tech N95s and gowns and face shields in case we were to need them. We do have rapid testing available in the homes in case any of our moms or staff are exposed or showing symptoms. What else? We have asked the moms not to take public transportation. So actually a lot of my job currently entails driving moms to work, which has been a great way to, like, bond and get to know them, because we've got, a 20-minute drive to work, and all you have to do is chat with me, or listen to me chat, it depends. But so we've asked moms not to take public transportation, and to just, practice an abundance of caution outside of the home. What am I missing? Most of our classes are virtual, though we have tried to start a few of them in person at our Family Success Center. The weather in Arizona, luckily, is beautiful right now. So during the day in the sun, it's great. And then at night, you can just pop on a few heat lamps and kind of appropriately distance outside with your mask on. And we've been able to reintroduce, I think art journaling is happening in person this week, which I know our moms will be really excited about. And support group is back in person for kind of a test run to see how it goes. And, kind of protocol as far as re-entering. In-person classes at the Family Success Center have also been approached with a lot of caution. So taking temperatures, making sure everyone is masked, trying to stay outside as much as possible, that kind of thing. What did I miss?
I think you did a great job. Great. I think you covered most of the precautions. And we would love to answer any questions about that as well. And so welcome. I haven't been keeping a super close eye on when new participants have joined, but we've had a few new ones in the last little while. So welcome, everybody. So I wanted to take a minute to invite everyone. If you have any other questions for Amy or Carrie, I'm sorry, Rosie. Amy or Rosie, in regards to their experience in the homes as AmeriCorps members, any questions for any of the three of us, feel free to put them in the Q&A, and we will see them over the next couple of minutes. And as we are gathering any remaining questions that exist, I want to re-land on why choose service during a pandemic. So, Rosie, if you would summarize in about a sentence, why choose service at this point? And then Amy, I would love to hear that from you as well. And then we will address any remaining questions, and we'll sign off for everyone to continue with their day. So Rosie.
Yes, absolutely. So from my standpoint, for me, the question was why continue service during a pandemic? And I feel like it also translates over why choose service in the first place. And that is because we need each other. We need each other's love. We need each other's community. And it's based off of relationships that healing can really begin to flourish. And no matter how the world changes around us, we still have an impact that we can make just by being present to one another, being present to the lives of the women and the children that we are serving, and to be one of the people in their life that shows up to them, that gives them the gift of presence. And yeah, I think right now, one of the biggest hurts for everyone during this pandemic has been the absence of community, or having to look at community in a different way. And so another reason to choose service during a pandemic is because you have a tangible community in front of you, a tangible group of people who become your friends, become your family, become your loved ones throughout the year. That you become that for them. You become their source of community just as much as they become yours. And so, like, while the world continues to change around us, service is still life-changing too, and still very needed, and still a gift both to you and those who you would live in solidarity with.
Yeah, thanks, Rosie. I have a very similar answer. I think someone said this during one of our kind of reflection groups, and I am going to say it again with the risk of not being able to credit them because I don't remember who said it, but one of my teammates just very beautifully said, you know, during a time of such stark isolation for so many, Maggie's Place has offered really beautiful community. And I think one of the most beautiful parts of community that has always been true for me, and I experienced this very early on in my first year of service, was whatever I was feeling internally, whether it was grief or joy, whatever was happening to my community, you know, a mom moving out unexpectedly, or you know, the joy of a baby being born, or celebrating a soberversary, or getting a job, or whatever may be happening around me, whatever I was feeling about that was mirrored in my community. The moms felt it, my staff felt it. And there's something just so comforting knowing that you're kind of you're not experiencing it alone. And so I think that is, I would say, a huge reason to choose service. You know, so many people, and I think especially coming maybe right out of a college campus as well, I think this is happening a lot, based on the experiences that I've heard from my friends or my little brother. You know, being in this huge space where you can't really interact with people because of safety reasons can be really isolating, even though you're surrounded by people. And I would say that's not true within our communities. You know, there are barriers kind of to that create some awkwardness of like wearing a mask in your own home, but the community is still felt, and all of those emotions are still mirrored in the community. And we've found ways to hold space for both really, really terrible moments, and really, really huge amounts of grief that I think everyone has experienced on a whole during this pandemic, while also holding space for all of those joyful moments that we have to celebrate, maybe in a different way, but we still get to celebrate. And so, yeah, I think Rosie said it beautifully. The reason that she chose to continue service during a pandemic is the same reason that she chose service in the first place, and I would say that's the same for me. I chose service because of the community that it was going to offer me, as well as that I could help facilitate and build, and that's the same reason I would choose it now, is the community.
Thank you both so much. So we've had a couple of questions come in that we will, I'd like to answer before we sign off. So one of the questions is, who teaches the classes? What kinds of classes do we offer for our moms? Do we partner with local university programs, or are there other local organizations that design and give classes to any mom who's interested? And so I think that's a great question. And I'll get it a start, and then either of you feel free to jump in if I miss anything. But really, one of the things that we seek to do as an organization is always provide trauma-informed services, including the classes we provide to moms, and then really tailor our classes and our services overall to our moms' needs. And so while we have, we kind of have two parts to our community. One is the moms currently living in our homes, and the other part is our alumni moms, which are the moms who have lived in our homes at any point in the last 20 years that we've been open. And one of the beautiful things about our programming is that we say once a Maggie's Place mom, always a Maggie's Place mom. And so a mom can literally live with us for 2 days, decide that this isn't the program for her, but be forever eligible to receive services and to come back and participate in the community. And so we have over 1,000 alumni moms at this point, 20 years into our history. And a couple of times the Family Success Center has been mentioned, and that is kind of our hub for classes and community for both our current moms and our alumni moms traditionally. And so we offer classes throughout the week that range from, we have a DCS support group for moms who have open DCS cases with children. We have a general support group where moms can support each other through any variety of challenges, whether that be just goals that they're seeking, whether it be sobriety. It's really geared toward building the community of support from mom to mom. We have classes on safe sleep and infant safety and childproofing and lots of support for mental health and well-being. And so we have a fairly new class that is being offered through an outside organization or a partner organization that focuses on maternal mental health and postpartum mental health. And we also provide counseling for our moms through a partnership. And that partner organization provides trauma and attachment specific classes for our moms. So, and then there's a lot of fun ones. Amy mentioned Art Heals, and we have regular child enrichment programming to foster moms' relationships with their children, fun community events, whether that has been over Zoom or now kind of dipping our toe back into what that looks like in person. So it's a wide range. We work individually with moms as well to make sure that they have access to the classes that they need if they're not offered in-house. So I hope that answers that question. And then another question that came up is, what are some of the hardships that you face while serving? And I think some of those were definitely touched on in the webinar. The webinar is being recorded, and our hopes is that we'll polish it up a bit and get to post it so that we can, so that everyone can either watch it again, or those who didn't get a chance to see it can watch it. If you have further questions about specific challenges, I want to encourage you, just based on time, to reach out to Rosie. Rosie just in the chat box shared her link tree, which has a scheduling tool for you to schedule a one-on-one conversation with her, and a lot of other great resources that can help answer that question, because that's definitely one that we would love to dig into with you. So follow us on social media. Serve with MP is our Instagram name, and there are plenty of other ways through that link tree to stay in touch with us as well. But we're really excited to get to share this information, and would love to continue the conversation with each of you. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
Amy, Rosie, thank you.
Yeah. Before
Rosie.
we sign off, I just wanted to say that also in the link tree, there is a link to go to the Maggie's Place podcast. And there is a new episode featuring Amy, and then also featuring Lucy, who works with Maggie's Place, who was a Maggie's Place core a few years ago. And so they talk about their experiences in the home. And so that might also be beneficial for you to listen to as you are discerning whether or not to apply for a year of service with Maggie's Place.
All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you for joining today. Have a great rest of your day.